Hey everyone, it's Greg from Six Sided Discs. I recently went on record as saying random brands you've never heard of, like these ones sold on Temu, made by random Chinese manufacturers, aren't good for the sport of disc golf. So imagine the conundrum I faced when the next stack of discs to look at for our first impression series are some Chinese discs that you may not have heard of. These are our first impressions. These discs are of course made by XCOM, a manufacturer from China. Now, to be clear, in our video about discs from Temu, I said I don't think those discs are good for our sport at large because those companies are just trying to make a quick buck. They have the means to quickly and cheaply make random disc mold designs, toss them on a marketplace like Temu, and turn cheap plastic into crispy green US dollars. And that's only a problem for me because they don't have any skin in the game. They don't sponsor players, they don't support tournaments or events or local, any disc golf stuff. They're just selling a cheap plastic product with low effort AI art and names. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Eagle Wigs, but is XCOM any different? We'll see. The first thing you need to know about XCOM discs is that they reached out to me. I was contacted first by a representative that wanted to know if we wanted to carry some of their discs. And these days, I've had a few of those requests from companies we don't yet have. And to be completely transparent, we're a small online and mobile pop-up shop with limited inventory space. So I'm a little bit choosy about what I bring in and when I bring it in. We of course have to find a balance between carrying the stuff that we know our local community likes, like MVP and Discraft, as well as stuff that they don't know they want yet, like Ocean Discs or Elevation. So I politely told XCOM I wasn't looking to make an order right now, but they generously offered to still send us a bunch of discs to test and explore here on our channel. So while this video is not sponsored, a big thank you to XCOM for sending us the discs. Let's start by talking about a couple of their discs before we get into more information about the company itself, and we'll start with their slowest disc we have today, the Tau, or Taurus. All of XCOM's discs are named after constellations. The matching constellation is on the stamp of the base plastic discs, along with some intricate artwork on the premium plastic ones. The Tau is rated at 2300, and it's a deep, domey putter. It reminds me a little bit of a P2 or an AVR, but maybe even deeper. We have the Tau today in two different plastics. Mars, which is a swirly premium plastic, and Earth, which is a stiff but tacky base plastic. It has a similar grip to MVP's Electron Soft, but is stiffer than Electron Soft, maybe closer to their standard Electron or Electron Firm. And the Tau is a versatile putter. Off the tee in their Mars premium plastic, you can start it out on a slight hyzer, and it'll easily flip up to flat, hold, and then have a very slight fade, giving an overall very straight flight. In the Earth-based plastic, it definitely gets more turn for a understable flight. And it's not half bad for putting either. Clearly, Caleb agrees. So while the Taurus meets all of our expectations for a straight to understable putter, the Virgo throws expectations out the window. The Virgo we have here is in their Mars premium plastic, and it looks incredible. It is also, as it clearly says right here, a putt and approach disc. And I didn't notice this until long after I had thrown it, because as you can clearly see, it's shaped much more like a mid-range. And its flight numbers of 4502 say straight to overstable mid-range to me. Further confusion is added to the situation by XCOM's own website, which shows the Virgo in the mid-range category, except it also clearly says putter under the disc. What? I mean, which is it? Can a disc be a putter and a mid-range at the same time? I don't think so. Does it at least fly like the flight numbers suggest? Well, no. There was just nothing about this flight that says to me that it was a 2 fade. Nor does it fly like any putter that I've thrown. So despite what it says, the Virgo is a mid-range, and a straight to understable one at that. Now for another mid-range, and let's see if the flight number situation is a trend with XCOM or a one-off with the Gemini. This Gemini is in their Earth-based plastic and is a shallow mid-range, rated at 5500. With that same grippy, tacky base plastic, the Gemini is sold in their beginner-friendly all-base plastic starter pack. And it's an interesting shape. With a thick, blunt nose at the leading edge of the wing, it has a shallow feel in the hand, but not so much that you can't get a good grip. So do we get a straight mid-range flight from the Gemini, or is it an overstable fairway driver? Well, would you look at that? Caleb's reaction says it all. When a mid-range holds straight for nearly a full 5 seconds before that minimal fade kicks in, I think it's safe to call it straight. The only downside I can see here with the Gemini is that in base plastic, it's just not going to hold up for as long. As soon as you hit a few trees, it's going to turn into an understable mid-range. 2 out of 3 XCOM discs seem to fly roughly the way they say. Not bad so far. And that's not to say that the Virgo isn't a good disc, but I am concerned about the flight, because what if I bag it and then I lose it? Is a replacement going to fly the same, or will the replacement fly the way that XCOM intended? Anyways, let's get a little more background on XCOM because their story may surprise you. XCOM's website makes a reference to someone named Zhen Gan, who is the founder or owner of XCOM Sports, and they established XCOM back in 2006. And immediately began actively promoting disc sports in China. 10 years later, XCOM began producing professional ultimate discs and obtained championship level certification from WFDF, the World Flying Disc Federation, as well as USA Ultimate. And in 2023, they expanded their offerings once more to include their disc sport shoes, One Attack. Advertised as suitable for ultimate frisbee, disc golf, or just walking around town, One Attack by XCOM are some pretty slick looking shoes. Priced at $250, but there's no additional information here on whether they're waterproof, how they're specifically designed for disc sports, or how durable they may be. They are also currently completely sold out. Actually, nearly everything on XCOM's website is sold out, with the exception of the starter sets they sent me. I'm not sure why that is, but what I can also tell you about XCOM is that their entry into disc golf came right before the great disc golf surge of 2020. I would call them a post-COVID manufacturer if it weren't for the fact that their first 5 molds were approved right before COVID hit in January of 2020. Those first 5 discs included 2 of the discs we've already seen today, the Gemini and the Tau or Taurus, as well as 3 others, the Capricornus, Ophiuchus, and XPT5. It's also worth a quick note that almost all of their discs have been renamed. The Virgo was approved by the PDGA about 2 years later, in December of 2021, the same day as another one of their mid-ranges, the Aku. Aku, short for Aquarious, is a mid-range rated at 5.5 -20 and is once again available in their premium Mars plastic. Now the Aquarius has an interesting shape. An aerodynamic top mold cuts in sharply below the parting line before a big bead. The overall shape and design reminds me a little bit of the Wombat 3 from Innova to some degree. Now the Wombat 3 is understable, and the Aquarius says it's understable, so this is kind of an open and shut case, right? Off the tee from hyzer, the Aquarius resists turning over, and instead holds that hyzer angle. With a little more power, still on a slide hyzer, Caleb was able to get it to flip to flat, but it only holds that for a split second before fading out. So I asked Caleb to really put some heat on it and throw it flatter, and this was the least overstable flight that we got from the Aquarius. So that makes 2 discs with seemingly the incorrect flight numbers. In fact, the Virgo and Aquarius are really puzzling. I took these XCOM discs out myself for a casual round, and I could have sworn that the flight numbers for the Virgo and Aquarius were flip-flopped, because they both fly sort of how the other one says they will. The Virgo was consistently understable, the Aquarius was consistently overstable. It seems like they're backwards. But let's see if their fairway drivers tell a different story. Beginning with the Pisces. Rated at 7502, the story will be at least a little different because the Pisces is in their Earth base plastic. This time though, there is a lot less tackiness to that base plastic. Just saying. With a very T-bird inspired wing shape, this Pisces is domey, somewhat stiff, and ready to fly. So will we see something 7502-ish when Caleb throws it? No. Maybe if he puts a little less heat on it. No. All right, let me give it a try with my aging noodly arm. And there we go. That's still a lot of turn for a 7502 rated disc, but it does technically have some low speed fade, which means the most accurate way to describe the Pisces is that it's beginner friendly. But can their 9-speed fairway driver do any better? This is the Aries. Also in their earth-based plastic, the Aries is rated at 9403, and its profile looks to me like a slightly faster version of the Pisces. So maybe we can adjust our expectations. Yes, it says 9403, but we know it's base plastic. We know it's related, at least slightly, to the Pisces. And as expected, Caleb puts it on the faintest of hyzers and it immediately flips over, turns, and even cut rolls slightly. But is a base plastic driver designed for a big, strong guy like Caleb? I don't think so. So can it work for a lower arm speed? Yes, it can. That looks a lot more like 9403 to me. But here's the thing. Base plastic drivers are a pretty niche market, and typically only appeal to new players for a short period of time. So let's see if any of XCOM's premium plastic drivers can work for Caleb's arm speed. And we begin with their two 11-speed drivers, the Libra and the Leo. The Libra and Leo were both featured in a recent Flight Numbers Don't Matter video, where we were exploring a bunch of discs with Innova Wraith-style numbers. Now you may be wondering why we're looking at these two discs together, but I promise all will be revealed in about 30 seconds. You see, the Libra is rated at 11.5 -1.2, so of course I included it in our Wraith comparison, seeing as the Wraith is rated at 11.5 -1.3. The Libra fits right in, at least on paper. But as we are constantly finding out here, disc golf is not played on paper, and those flight numbers don't mean anything until you throw the disc. And what happened when we threw it was this. Surprise, surprise, the flight numbers didn't seem quite right. Now by this time, of course, I had already thrown the Aquarius and Virgo. I saw this sort of flip-flopping flight number situation, and then I saw the Leo's flight numbers of 11.5 -3.1, and I thought, I wonder, is it actually understable? Or, and I was right, the Leo flew much more overstable than the numbers suggested, flying more like how the Libra said it would. Once again, flip-flopping just like the Aquarius and Virgo. And this is really puzzling because the most obvious reason for this would be that the discs are misstamped, but they are not. As you can see here, these molds have the names of the discs built into the mold itself. So it is definitely a Libra when it says it is, and a Leo when it says it is, and so on. So to be completely honest, I have no idea why these flight numbers are so inconsistent. I find flight numbers frustrating in general, and certainly more so when they don't seem to be correct or accurate in the slightest. And by my tally, XCOM's flight numbers were only accurate for Caleb twice so far, the Taurus and Gemini, while the two base plastic fairway drivers were accurate for me. But what about our last disc from XCOM? The Dra, or Dre? Let's go with Dre, as in Draco. And this is a great opportunity for us to point out something else interesting about XCOM. Obviously, as I said earlier, all of their discs are named after constellations. But there's one problem with that. There are several discs on the market that have the same name as other constellations, and they've been around for a while. The Millennium discs Draco, Scorpius, and Taurus all occupy names that XCOM clearly wants in their lineup. And since the PDGA requires each approved disc to have a unique name for that mold, XCOM decided to press ahead and abbreviate those names. I'm not sure if I have anything against that approach. It's just interesting to see them really commit to that naming scheme, even though some were taken. Anywho, the Dre is rated at 12.5, -1.2, and has a pretty traditional wing shape for an overstable 12 speed. Not that you can see that, this dark purple was really hard to see on our black background. But we won't be so easily defeated by the darkness. That's better. Yeah, pretty traditional wing shape. And I'm loving the feel of the Dre. The wing fits nicely in my hand, and with a bit of flex and a cool design, can it deliver a positive ending to our journey through XCOM's lineup? Well, that's not a good start. So I asked Caleb to dial it back, maybe a little less power, maybe a little less hyzer. Can we get like a -1.2-ish flight from the Dre? No, not this time. Okay, one more try, Caleb. You can do this. Nope. Despite our best efforts, the flight numbers of the Dre just don't seem to fit Caleb's arm speed. And that leaves us to try and pick up the pieces and make sense of XCOM discs. Going back to where we started, I was frustrated with the discs that we tested from Temu, as well as Amazon only or Temu only discs in general, because I do feel that they don't and likely won't care about supporting disc golf, other than just trying to make a quick buck off of a cheap product. And I stand by that statement, though I would be more than happy for them to prove me wrong. XCOM, though, are clearly willing to get behind disc sports for the long haul. Promoting it for almost 20 years, they've been involved in multiple disc sports through multiple product lines and are the official footwear sponsor of the World Flying Disc Federation until 2026. But there's no getting away from the fact that despite the beautiful stamps and swirly plastics, most of these discs just failed to meet expectations. So does that mean that we as players have to adjust our expectations to these discs? Or does XCOM need to adjust these flight numbers? And if they don't change the flight numbers, can we trust that the next Dre, Leo, or Virgo that we throw will be as understable as these ones? What do you all think of XCOM? Have you thrown them before? Leave a comment down below. And remember, if you liked how one of these exact discs flew in today's video, you can purchase it on our website while supplies last at sixsideddiscs.com. It'll be in our From Our YouTube section for 10% off, since they are lightly used. Your purchase directly supports the content we create, so thank you for your support. And also comment below what brands or discs we should explore in our First Impressions series next. For Six Sided Discs, I'm Greg. We'll see you in the next one. Let's check out a few of their discs before we talk a little more about the company, beginning with their slowest speed. Now you may be wondering, why are we look like... But what about our last XCOM disc? The 12-speed and I'm loving the feel of the Dre. The plastic is grippy, but also slightly stick, with a bit of stick. Now, the Libra and Leo were both featured in our recent Flight Numbers Don't Matter series video thing. Cut. It is over. If you like this content and want to see more, please consider liking the video, subscribing to our channel, or supporting us on Patreon. Your support makes this content possible.